Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books right here in live studios in Radha Lane, ISKCON, Houston, just down the pathway from Sri Sri Radha Nila Madhava's beautiful temple. Oh, Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Maharani ki jai. Okay. Srila Sanat, without further ado, I waste so much time talking before I read the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is everything, so Hare Krishna. Sanatana Goswami Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram is glorification of Srimad-Bhagavatam par excellence. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprida. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Duritaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nisdadaga Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin ati nichuchata kada hanamunchagadachin mam prem narit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we've reached the 6th chapter of the 8th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, in which we're going to find out how it is that the demigods made a truce with the demons on the advice of Lord Vishnu. And right now Lord Brahma is offering prayers to Lord Vishnu to get his favor so that he'll give him that advice, what to do. Text 12. As one can derive fire from wood, milk from the milk bag of a cow, food grains and water from the land, and prosperity in one's livelihood from industrial enterprises, so by the practice of bhakti yoga, even within this material world, one can achieve your favor or intelligently approach you. Those who are pious all affirm this. Purport. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is nirguna, not to be found within this material world, the entire material world is pervaded by Him, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Maya tatamidam sarvam. The material world is nothing but an expansion of the Lord's material energy, and the entire cosmic manifestation rests upon Him. Matstani sarvabhutani. Nonetheless, The Supreme Lord cannot be found here. Nachaham te shavastitaha. A devotee, however, can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the practice of Bhakti Yoga. One ordinarily does not begin to practice Bhakti Yoga unless he has practiced it in previous births. Moreover, one can begin Bhakti Yoga only by the mercy of the spiritual master and Krishna. Guru Krishna Prasade Poi Bhakti Lata Bij. The seed of devotional service is obtainable by the mercy of Guru, the spiritual master, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only by the practice of Bhakti Yoga can one achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and see Him face to face. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochenena Santak Sedaiva Ridiyeshu Vilokayanti. One cannot see the Lord by other methods. One cannot see the Lord by other methods, such as karma, jnana, or yoga. Under the direction of the spiritual master, one must cultivate Bhakti Yoga, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam. Then, even within this material world, although the Lord is not visible, a devotee can see Him. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyas jasmi tatvataha. And in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Bhaktya ham ekaya graya. Thus, by devotional service, one can achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although He is not visible or understandable to materialistic persons. In this verse, the cultivation of Bhakti Yoga is compared to many material activities. By friction, one can get fire from wood. By digging the earth, one can get grains and water. And by agitating the milk bag of the cow, one can get nectarian milk. Milk is compared to nectar, which one can drink to become immortal. Of course, drinking milk will not make one immortal, but it can increase the duration of one's life. In modern civilization, men do not think milk to be important, and therefore they do not live very long. Although in this age men can live up to 100 years, their duration of life is reduced because they do not drink large quantities of milk. Veganism ki jai ho. This is a sign of Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, instead of drinking milk, people prefer to slaughter an animal and eat its flesh. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his instructions of Bhagavad Gita, advises Goraksha, which means cow protection. The cow should be protected. Milk should be drawn from the cows, and this milk should be prepared in various ways. One should take ample milk, and thus one can prolong one's life, develop his brain, execute devotional service, and ultimately attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it is essential to get food grains and water by digging the earth, it is also essential to give protection to the cows and take nectarian milk from their milk bags. The people of this age are inclined toward industrial enterprises for comfortable living, but they refuse to endeavor to execute devotional service by which they can achieve the ultimate goal of life by returning home, back to Godhead. Unfortunately, as it is said, Nate vidus varta gatim hi Vishnum durashaya ye bahir artamani naha. People without spiritual education do not know that the ultimate goal of life is to go back home, back to Godhead. Forgetting this aim of life, they are working very hard in disappointment and frustration. Mogasha, mogakarmano, mogajnana vichetasaha. The so-called Vaishyas, the industrialists or businessmen, are involved in big industrial enterprises, but they are not interested in food grains and milk. However, as indicated here, by digging for water, even in the desert, we can produce food grains. When we produce food grains and vegetables, we can give protection to the cows. While giving protection to the cows, we can draw from them abundant quantities of milk. And by getting enough milk and combining it with food grains and vegetables, we can prepare hundreds of nectarian foods. We can happily eat this food and thus avoid industrial enterprises and joblessness. Agriculture and cow protection are the way to become sinless and thus be attracted to devotional service. Those who are sinful cannot be attracted by devotional service. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.28, Yesham tvantakatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajante mam dridavrtaha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and who are freed from the duality of delusion, engage themselves in my service with determination. The majority of people in this age of Kali are sinful, short-living, unfortunate and disturbed. Mandat sumanda matayo, manda bhagya upadrutaha. For them, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has advised, Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama eva kevalam, kalo nastyeva, 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 gatir anyata. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. 13. Elephants afflicted by a forest fire become very happy when they get water from the Ganges. Similarly, O my Lord, from whose navel grows the lotus flower, since you have now appeared before us, we have become transcendently happy. By seeing your Lordship, whom we have desired to see for a very long time, we have achieved our ultimate goal in life. Purport. The devotees of the Lord are always very eager to see the Supreme Lord face to face. But they do not demand that the Lord come before them, for a pure devotee considers such a demand to be contrary to devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches this lesson in his Shikshastaka. Adarshanan marmahatam karot tuva. The devotee is always eager to see the Lord face to face. But if he is broken-hearted because he cannot see the Lord, even life after life, he will never command the Lord to appear. This is a sign of pure devotion. Therefore, in this verse, we find the word Atichira ipsita artam, meaning that the devotee aspires for a long, long time to see the Lord. If the Lord, by his own pleasure, appears before the devotee feels extremely happy, as Dhruva Maharaj felt when he personally saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Dhruva Maharaj saw the Lord, he had no desire to ask the Lord for any benediction. Indeed, simply by seeing the Lord, Dhruva Maharaj felt so satisfied that he did not want to ask the Lord for any benediction. Swamin kritartosmi varam nayache. A pure devotee, whether able or unable to see the Lord, always engages in the Lord's devotional service, always hoping that at some time the Lord may be pleased to appear before him so that he can see the Lord face to face. Text 14. My Lord, we, the various demigods, the directors of this universe, have come to your lotus feet. Please fulfill the purpose for which we have come. You are the witness of everything, from within and without. Nothing is unknown to you, and therefore it is unnecessary to inform you again of anything. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 13.3, Chetragyam chapi mam vidi sarva chetreshu bharata. The individual souls are proprietors of their individual bodies, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the proprietor of all bodies. Since he is the witness of everyone's body, nothing is unknown to him. He knows what we need. Our duty, therefore, is to execute devotional service sincerely under the direction of the spiritual master. Krishna, by his grace, will supply whatever we need in executing our devotional service. In the Krishna consciousness movement, we simply have to execute the order of Krishna and Guru. Then all necessities will be supplied by Krishna, even if we do not ask for them. Text 15. I, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all the demigods, accompanied by the Prajapatis like Daksha, are nothing but sparks illuminated by you, who are the original fire. Since we are particles of you, what can we understand about our welfare? O Supreme Lord, please give us the means of deliverance that is suitable for the Brahmanas and demigods. Purport. In this verse, the word Dvija Deva Mantram is very important. The word mantra means that which delivers one from the material world. Only the Dvijas, the Brahmanas, and the Devas, the demigods, can be delivered from material existence by the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a mantra and is suitable for delivering the conditioned souls from mental speculation. The conditioned souls are engaged in a struggle for existence. Manak shastan indriyani prakriti stani karshati. Deliverance from this struggle constitutes the highest benefit. But unless one gets a mantra from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, deliverance is impossible. The beginning mantra is the Gayatri mantra. Therefore, after purification, when one is qualified to become a Brahmana, Dvija, he is offered the Gayatri mantra. Simply by chanting the Gayatri mantra, one can be delivered. This mantra, however, is suitable only for the Brahmanas and demigods. In Kali Yuga, we are all in a very difficult position in which we need a suitable mantra that can deliver us from the dangers of this age. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his incarnation as Lord Chaitanya, gives us the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatyar Anyatha. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means for deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. In Shastaka, Lord Chaitanya says, Param Vijayate, Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the chanting of Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is directly chanted by the Lord himself, who gives us this mantra for deliverance. We cannot invent any means to be delivered from the dangers of material existence. Here, even the demigods, such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and the Prajapatis, such as Daksha, are said to be like illuminating sparks in the presence of the Supreme Lord, who is compared to a great fire. Sparks are beautiful as long as they are in the fire. Similarly, we have to remain in the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always engage in devotional service, for then we shall always be brilliant and illuminating. As soon as we fall from the service of the Lord, our brilliance and illumination will immediately be extinguished, or at least stopped for some time. When we living entities who are like sparks of the original fire, the Supreme Lord, fall into the material condition, we must take the mantra from the Supreme Personality of Godhead as it is offered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, we shall be delivered. By chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, we shall be delivered from all the difficulties of this material world. Text 16, it's quite all right. It happens. Stuff happens. We're in the material world. Text 16, Shukadeva Goswami continued. When the Lord was thus offered prayers by the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, he understood the purpose for which they had approached him. Therefore, in a deep voice that resembled the rumbling of clouds, the Lord replied to the demigods, who all stood there attentively with folded hands. Text 17. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of the demigods, was capable of performing the activities of the demigods by himself, he wanted to enjoy pastimes in churning the ocean. Therefore he spoke as follows. Text 18. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other demigods, please hear me with great attention, for what I say will bring good fortune for all of you. Text 19. As long as you are not flourishing, you should make a truce with the demons and asuras, who are now being favored by time. Purport. One word in this verse has two readings, Kalena and Kavyena. Kalena means favored by time, and Kavyena means favored by Shukracharya. Shukracharya being the spiritual master of the Daityas, Shukracharya being the spiritual master of the Daityas. The demons and Daityas were favored in both ways, and therefore the demigods were advised by the Supreme Lord to execute a truce for the time being, until time favored them. Text 20. O demigods, fulfilling one's own interests is so important that one may even have to make a truce with one's enemies. For the sake of one's self-interest, one has to act according to the logic of the snake and the mouse. Memo to the United States Congress. Purport. A snake and a mouse were once caught in a basket. Now, since the mouse is food for the snake, this was a good opportunity for the snake. However, since both of them were caught in the basket, even if the snake ate the mouse, the snake would not be able to get out. Therefore, the snake thought it wise to make a truce with the mouse and asked the mouse to make a hole in the basket so that both of them could get out. The snake's intention was that after the mouse made the hole, the snake would eat the mouse and escape from the basket through the hole. This is called the logic of the snake and the mouse. Text 21. Immediately endeavor to produce nectar, which a person who is about to die may drink to become immortal. 22 and 23. O demigods, cast into the ocean of milk all kinds of vegetables, grass, creepers, and drugs. Then, with my help, making Mandara mountain the churning rod, and Basuki the rope for churning, churn the ocean of milk with undiverted attention. Thus the demons will be engaged in labor, but you, the demigods, will gain the actual result, the nectar produced from the ocean. Purport. It appears that when different kinds of drugs, creepers, grass, and vegetables are put into this milk, and the milk is churned, as milk is churned for butter, the active principles of the vegetables and drugs mix with the milk, and the result is nectar. Text 24. My dear demigods, with patience and peace, everything can be done. But if one is agitated by anger, the goal is not achieved. Therefore, whatever the demons ask, agree to their proposal. Text 25. A poison known as Kalakuta will be generated from the ocean of milk, but you should not fear it. And when various products are returned from the ocean, you should not be greedy for them or anxious to obtain them, nor should you be angry. Purport. It appears that by the churning process, many things would be generated from the ocean of milk, including poison, valuable gems, nectar, and many beautiful women. The demigods were advised, however, not to be greedy for the gems or beautiful women, but to wait patiently for the nectar. The real purpose was to get the nectar. Text 26. Shukadeva Goswami continued, O King Parikshit, after advising the demigods in this way, the independent, Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all living entities, disappeared from their presence. Text 27. Then Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, after offering their respectful obeisances to the Lord, returned to their abodes. All the demigods then approached Maharaj Bali. Text 28. Maharaj Bali, the most celebrated king of the demons, knew very well when to make peace and when to fight. Thus, although his commanders and captains were agitated and were about to kill the demigods, Maharaj Bali, seeing that the demigods were coming to him without a militant attitude, forbade his commanders to kill them. Purport. Vedic etiquette enjoins Grihe Shatrum Abhipraptam Vishwastam Akato Bayam. When enemies come to their opponent's place, they should be received in such a way that they will forget that there is animosity between the two parties. Bali Maharaj was well conversant with the arts of peacemaking and fighting. Thus he received the demigods very well, although his commanders and captains were agitated. This kind of treatment was prevalent even during the fight between the Pandavas and the Kurus. During the day, the Pandavas and Kurus would fight with utmost strength, and when the day was over, they would go to each other's camps as friends and be received as such. During such friendly meetings, one enemy would offer anything the other enemy wanted. That was the system. Text 29. The demigods approached Bali Maharaj, the son of Virochana, and sat down near him. Bali Maharaj was protected by the commanders of the demons and was most opulent, having conquered all the universe. Text 30. After pleasing Bali Maharaj with mild words, Lord Indra, the king of the demigods, who was most intelligent, very politely submitted all the proposals he had learned from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Text 31. The proposals submitted by King Indra were immediately accepted by Bali Maharaj and his assistants, headed by Sambara and Arishtanemi, and by all the other residents of Tripura. Purport. It appears from this verse that politics, diplomacy, the propensity to cheat, and everything that we find in this world in individual and social negotiations between two parties are also present in the upper planetary systems. The demigods went to Bali Maharaj with the proposal to manufacture nectar, and the Daityas, the demons, immediately accepted it, thinking that since the demigods were already weak, when the nectar was produced, the demons would take it from them and use it for their own purposes. The demigods, of course, had similar intentions. The only difference is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, was on the side of the demigods, because the demigods were his devotees, whereas the demons did not care about Lord Vishnu. All over the universe, there are two parties, the Vishnu party, or God-conscious party, and the godless party. The godless party is never happy or victorious, but the God-conscious party is always happy and victorious. Text 32. O Maharaj Parikshit, chastiser of enemies, the demigods and the demons thereafter made an armistice between them. Then, with great enterprise, they arranged to produce nectar as proposed by Lord Indra. Purport. The word samvidam is significant in this verse. The demigods and demons both agreed to stop fighting, at least for the time being, and endeavored to produce nectar. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur notes in this connection, Samvid yude pratigyayam acharde nam nitoshane sambhashane kriyakare sanketa gyanayodapi. The word sambit is variously used to mean in fighting, in promising, for satisfying, in addressing, by practical action, indication, and knowledge. Text 33. Thereafter, with great strength, the demons and demigods, who were all very powerful and who had long, stout arms, uprooted Mandara mountain. Crying very loudly, they brought it toward the ocean of milk. Text 34. Because of conveying the great mountain for a long distance, King Indra, Maharaj Bali, and the other demigods and demons became fatigued. Being unable to carry the mountain, they left it on the way. 35. The mountain known as Mandara, which was extremely heavy, being made of gold, fell and smashed many demigods and demons. Purport. By constitution, gold is heavier than stone. Since Mandara mountain was made of gold and was therefore heavier than stone, the demigods and demons could not properly carry it to the ocean of milk. Text 36. The demigods and demons were frustrated and disheartened, and their arms, thighs, and shoulders were broken. Therefore the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who knows everything, appeared there on the back of his carrier, Garuda. Text 37. Observing that most of the demons and the demigods had been crushed by the falling of the mountain, the Lord glanced over them and brought them back to life. Thus they became free from grief, and they even had no bruises on their bodies. Text 38. The Lord very easily lifted the mountain with one hand and placed it on the back of Garuda. Then he too got on the back of Garuda and went to the ocean of milk, surrounded by the demigods and demons. Purport. Here is proof of the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is above everyone. There are two classes of living entities, the demons and the demigods. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is above them both. The demons believe in the chance theory of creation, whereas the demigods believe in creation by the hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The omnipotence of the Supreme Lord is proved here, for simply with one hand he lifted Mandara mountain and brought the demigod. The omnipotence of the Supreme Lord is proved here, for simply with one hand he lifted Mandara mountain, the demigods and the demons, placed them on the back of Garuda, and brought them to the ocean of milk. Now the demigods, the devotees, would immediately accept this incident, knowing that the Lord can lift anything, however heavy it may be. But although demons were also carried along with the demigods, demons, upon hearing of this incident, would say that it is mythological. But if God is all-powerful, why would it be difficult for him to lift a mountain? Since he is floating innumerable planets with many hundreds and thousands of Mandara mountains, Why can't he lift one of them with his hand? This is not mythology, but the difference between the believers and the faithless is that the devotees accept the incidents mentioned in the Vedic literatures to be true, whereas the demons simply argue and label all these historical incidents mythology. Demons would prefer to explain that everything happening in the cosmic manifestation takes place by chance, but demigods or devotees never consider anything to be chance. Rather, they know that everything is an arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the difference between the demigods and the demons. Text 39. Thereafter, Garuda, the chief of birds, unloaded Mandara mountain from his shoulder and brought it near the water. Then he was asked by the Lord to leave that place, and he left. Purport. Garuda was asked by the Lord to leave that place because the snake, Vasuki, who was to be used as the rope for churning, could not go there in the presence of Garuda. Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, is not a vegetarian. He eats big snakes. Vasuki, being a big snake, would be natural food for Garuda, the chief of birds. Lord Vishnu therefore asked Garuda to leave so that Vasuki could be brought to churn the ocean with Mandara mountain, which was to be used as the churning rod. These are the wonderful arrangements of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing takes place by accident. Carrying Mandara mountain on the back of a bird and putting it in its right position might be difficult for anyone, whether demigod or demon. But for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is possible, as shown by this pastime. The Lord had no difficulty lifting the mountain with one hand, and Garuda, his carrier, carried all the demons and demigods together by the grace of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is known as Yogeshwara, the master of all mystic power, because of his omnipotence. If he likes, he can make anything lighter than cotton or heavier than the universe. Those who do not believe in the activities of the Lord cannot explain how things happen. Using words like accident, they take shelter of ideas that are unbelievable. Nothing is accidental. Everything is done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Maya yakshena prakriti suyate sachada chadam. Whatever actions and reactions occur within the cosmic manifestation all take place under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, because the demons do not understand the potency of the Lord, when wonderful things are done, the demons think that they are accidental. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 6th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled, "The Demigods and Demons Declare Truce." Chapter 7. Lord Shiva saves the universe by drinking poison. The summary of the 7th chapter is as follows. As described in this chapter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing in his incarnation as a tortoise, dove deep into the ocean to carry Mandara mountain on his back. At first, the churning of the ocean produced Kalakuta poison. Everyone feared this poison, but Lord Shiva satisfied them by drinking it, with the understanding that when the nectar was generated from the churning, they would share it equally. The demigods and the demons brought Vasuki to be used as the rope for the churning rod. By the expert arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demons held the snake near the mouth, whereas the demigods held the tail of the great snake. Then, with great endeavor, they began pulling the snake in both directions. because the churning rod, Mandara mountain, was very heavy and was not held by any support in the water. It sank into the ocean. And in this way, the prowess of both the demons and the demigods was vanquished. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then appeared in the form of a tortoise and supported Mandara mountain on his back. Then the churning resumed with great force. As a result of the churning, a huge amount of poison was produced. The Prajapatis, seeing no one else to save them, approached Lord Shiva and offered them prayers full of truth. Lord Shiva is called Ashutosh because he is very pleased if one is a devotee. Therefore he easily agreed to drink all the poison generated by the churning. The goddess Durga, Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, was not at all disturbed when Lord Shiva agreed to drink the poison, for she knew Lord Shiva's prowess. Indeed, she expressed her pleasure at this agreement. Then Lord Shiva gathered the devastating poison, which was everywhere. He took it in his hand and drank it. After he drank the poison, his neck became bluish. A small quantity of the poison dropped from his hands on the ground, and it is because of this poison that there are poisonous snakes, scorpions, toxic plants, and other poisonous things in this world. Text 1. Shukadev Goswami said, O best of the Kurus, Maharaj Parikshit, the demigods and demons summoned Vasuki, king of the serpents, requesting him to come and promising to give him a share of the nectar. They coiled Vasuki round Mandara mountain as a churning rope, and with great pleasure they endeavored to produce nectar by churning the ocean of milk. Text 2. The personality of Godhead, Ajita, grasped the front portion of the snake, and then the demigods followed. So now we've got, on the top, there's Vishnu, and now we've got another Ajita is pulling on the rope inside of the demons. Text 3. That's 2. The leaders of the demons thought it unwise to hold the tail, the inauspicious portion of the snake. Instead, they wanted to hold the front, which had been taken by the personality of Godhead and the demigods, because that portion was auspicious and glorious. Thus the demons, on the plea that they were all highly advanced students of Vedic knowledge and were all famous from their birth and activities, protested that they wanted to hold the front of the snake. This is like the Democrats and the Republicans, whatever they probably do. No, and then everyone does the same thing. No. It's like, right? Purport. The demons thought that the front of the snake was auspicious, and that catching hold of that portion would be more chivalrous. Moreover, Daityas must always do the opposite of the demigods. That is their nature. We have actually seen this in relation to our Krishna consciousness movement. We are advocating cow protection, encouraging people to drink more milk and eat palatable preparations made of milk, but the demons, just to protest such proposals, are claiming that they are advanced in scientific knowledge, as described here by the words Swadhyaya Shruta Sampanna. They say that according to their scientific way, they have discovered that milk is dangerous and that the beef obtained by killing cows is very nutritious. This difference of opinion will always continue. Indeed, it has existed since days of yore. Millions of years ago, there was the same competition. The demons, as a result of their so-called Vedic study, preferred to hold the side of the snake near the mouth. The Supreme Personality of Godhead thought it wise to catch hold of the dangerous part of the snake and allow the demons to hold the tail, which was not dangerous, but because of a competitive desire, the demons thought it wise to hold the snake near the mouth. If the demigods were going to drink poison, the demons would resolve. Why should we not share the poison and die gloriously by drinking it? In regard to the words swadhyaya shuddha sampana prakyata janma karma bihi, another question may be raised. If one is actually educated in Vedic knowledge, is famous for performing prescribed activities, and has been born in a great aristocratic family, why should he be called a demon? The answer is that one may be highly educated and may have been born in an aristocratic family, but if he is godless, if he does not listen to the instructions of God, then he is a demon. There are many examples in history of men like Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, and Kamsa, who were well educated, who were born in aristocratic families, and who were very powerful and chivalrous in fighting, but who, because of deriding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were called Rakshasas, or demons. One may be very well educated, but if he has no sense of Krishna consciousness, no obedience to the Supreme Lord, he is a demon. That is described by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita 7:15. Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naranamaha mayaya paritagyana asuram bhavam ashritaha. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Asuram bhavam refers not to not accepting the existence of God or the transcendental instructions of the personality of Godhead. Bhagavad Gita clearly consists of transcendental instructions imparted directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But asuras, instead of accepting these instructions directly, make commentaries according to their own whimsical ways and mislead everyone, without profit even for themselves. One should therefore be very careful of demoniac, godless persons. According to the words of Lord Krishna, even if a godless demon is very well educated, he must be considered a mudha, naradama, and mayaya, parita, jnana. Text 4. Thus the demons remain silent, opposing the desire of the demigods. Seeing the demons and understanding their motive, the personality of Godhead smiled. Without discussion, he immediately accepted their proposal by grasping the tail of the snake, and the demigods followed him. Text 5. After thus adjusting how the snake was to be held, the sons of Kashyapa, both demigods and demons, began their activities, desiring to get nectar by churning the ocean of milk. And we'll stop here. 7:31. Everybody, I can see that everybody's anxious to get onto the mic. Open mic time. I can see Sarba's hand is beginning to raise. His finger is starting to.
In several of the verses Prabhupada talks about milk and the value of milk, and how some more demoniac people say that milk is not good, but meat is good, and so forth. There's a lot of people that are nice that are vegans, and some vegans have a very kind of negative attitude toward Krishna consciousness, and Holiness Shivaram Maharaj made a nice video where he was trying to give them an alternative, that there is a way to take care of cows and lovingly, and also have the milk. And he's got a beautiful farm where that's being done. He's coming. And there was one internet exchange, some kind of a intellectual in the vegan movement who's in a very polarized position. I think some of the vegans appreciated his post, but this one was very
activist,
attacking the whole Krishna and scriptures.
Yeah.
Can you comment on that? Because there's so many nice people that want to take care of animals nicely, and I think we distributed quite a few books to that program too, right? So there's some nice people, but there's some people that seem to have an envious attitude in that group, some of the leaders.
Sarva, I think that you just commented very nicely. It was a very nice comment, because people, whether they seem nice or not, if they don't accept God, the existence of God, then they're to be considered demons. And sometimes the demons are nice. Look at Bali Maharaj. He ended up being a Mahajan just simply by, giving himself completely to, Vamanadev in another pastime. So I think better, rather than, judge a person and condemn or not because of some relative conception, we should reserve our attitude to those who actually believe in God. And Prabhupada said, I heard him say personally, that anybody who believes in God is a devotee. Maybe a neophyte devotee may not understand everything, and maybe even may take the wrong, in some ways, the wrong whatever. But because of that tendency, what is that verse? 13:26. You know that verse? 13:26. It goes like this. Anye tvevam ajanata shutva nye bya upasate tepichat titirancheva mrityum shuti parayanaha. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the birth and death. So I would comment that if a person is actually, by whatever circumstance, birth or in a certain family or a certain tradition, right, come in contact with, a scripture that is coming from a representative of God, which there are many, and follows it, even if within that tradition there are habits that don't concur with pure devotional service. If they follow, and Prabhupada made this qualification, this asterisk, if they follow, then they will gradually be elevated, and eventually they'll come in some lifetime, even if not in this lifetime, to Krishna consciousness. And we have this experience when we go out and do books. Sometimes we'll meet, like you were saying, that some of the vegans were, favorable, and some of them were, not. Especially the activists who want to, get power in whatever their subject matter is, whatever their issue is. They want power, and if they get power, they don't care whether it's, the thing is right or not. They just want power, And those persons, whether they seem to be, this or that. I mean, there are great political persons who were, you know, they did great austerity. They gave up sleeping even for power. You know, Napoleon, he practically didn't sleep. That's what the history books say. He slept 2 hours a night or something. Not an easy thing to do. But still, he turned out to be a demoniac person. Caused so much suffering to so many people. I mean, one nice thing about India is that it really hasn't been at least in the modern times, it hasn't been an aggressor to other countries. And just, I mean, I was in Italy in 1980, spent a year there making devotees. And 50 years before that, you know, it was very rare for anybody to eat meat. They all ate pizza. You know, their flag is, you know, white, you know, red and green. You know, cheese, you know, tomatoes, and so anyway, I think it's pretty clear from Shastra, you know, from Prabhupada's teachings, that, you know, this is the, I don't know, it's not hard and fast rule, it's not a black and white. Nothing is black and white in this world. Everything's relative in this material world. But in general, we would say that a person who has an actual belief in God, who accepts that there is a God, you know, he'll be a candidate eventually, if not in this lifetime.
Didn't Prabhupada say that Christianity was one of the aspects of Christianity was gave a way for even meat eaters to make some spiritual advancement?
Yeah, he said that, but he also said other things. You know,
yeah.
he said that, you know, that we condemn deity worship. I mean, demigod worship. Excuse me, demigod worship. But Prabhupada said directly that demigod worship is better than Christianity, because there were personal conceptions, and there, you know, one gets an opportunity with knowledge to become submissive, as it said in this verse of the Bhagavad Gita, to be submissive to authorities who, you know, who believed in Vishnu or believed in Krishna. You know, so even if we have a concept of God but we don't know anything about Him, we'll be subjected or prone to be misled. And now, the fact of the matter is that everything is so confused, you know? So confused that it's very rare, it's hard to say. I mean when Prabhupada, I mean it's different now. I know it's different now, but when Prabhupada was here and he was presented with this argument, because at those times many people knew that the cows were being mistreated, you know, and weren't being treated properly. And Prabhupada, when he was asked this, should we continue to, you know, offer milk to the deity? Because at that time there weren't very many, you know, dairies that had non-violent milk. Very few, any. And I was in San Francisco, and that's a very liberal place, that Bay Area, but there was hardly any. And Prabhupada told us, he said, you try your best to find the milk products that don't have rennet or something, some kind of, you know, meat product in it, and then offer that to the deity. And he said, because in the material world, in the Kali Yuga in particular, everything's contaminated. There's nothing completely pure, you know. So, I mean, personally, I extrapolate from that. And Prabhupada didn't exactly say it, but someone who was close to him said that he said it. I didn't hear it directly, so this may be hearsay. But Prabhupada did say, it's logical. You know, if a person comes and does some service for the temple, you know, a gardener or somebody that's just hired to do it, he'll make some spiritual advancement, agyata sukriti, by doing that. So if the cow gives some milk for the deity and it's actually offered to the deity, the soul and the body of that cow makes spiritual advancement. So with that argument, Prabhupada said, and also Krishna likes milk. So with that argument, he said we should continue to offer milk to the deity. We shouldn't, you know, restrict our offering of milk to the deity, milk sweets, milk. So there's different ways of looking at it. For preaching, we may take another line, to try to change the mass of people, to a better way of thinking. Of course, the superior thing, and that's what Prabhupada said, is we should have our farms and we should take care of the cows properly and have non-violent milk to offer to the deities, and then we can both purify the world through prasadam and also make them healthy through milk. I mean, there does seem to be a correlation, doesn't there? Because Prabhupada said that if you drink milk properly, hot milk, in the evenings, then we have an Ayurvedic authority here in the room that can verify whether or not I'm making this up. Prabhupada said also it actually feeds the finer tissues of the brains, and it makes it easier to understand transcendental subjects. And when you eat meat, the blood gets thicker. It doesn't go to the finer tissues of the brain, and therefore you can't understand anything about God if you're eating meat. So I would say, on that count, all glories to the vegans. But having said that, if a vegan becomes an activist and comes and burns our temple down, because then we don't say glory to that vegan. I mean, that's just, I'm waffling now. Give up my...
Maharaj, I would just like to add to your point that
This is our Ayurvedic physician speaking.
Hare
Ananteshwar Das.
In
Adhikari.
In Skanda Purana, it is mentioned that people who are seeking for spiritual life, for them milk is a necessity, that to cow's milk. And those who want to go away from spiritual life, all they have to do is give up milk.
Nice.
And I also recall that once my Guru Maharaj was telling that when Prabhupada was in New Vrindavan, he was offered the milk of the first cow named Kalia. And when Prabhupada drank it, Prabhupada said, "This is the best milk I had ever."
Yes.
So, and that time also he emphasized that if devotees are there, they should make sure that they have milk.
Yes.
And I remember in a Pune ashram, we have a rule: at night, a glass of milk and Krishna book.
Yeah, that was our program at the beginning of the movement. That was everyone. We had everyone. We took Krishna book and hot milk at night. And I was in Gita Nagari for a while in 1976, and I happened to be there by Prabhupada's grace when he came there. And they had, and they still have some of the best cows, and they have award-winning cows. And Prabhupada used to say, because they're treated with such love, you may know this, but my ex-wife, Kolini, was taking care of those cows for years, single-handedly. She was the saint in the family. Hare Krishna. Right? It's true.
You also.
No. I'm the demon, she's the devotee. And somehow or other, by her grace, I got the blessing. Anyway, what was it I was going to... Oh, yes. And Prabhupada said, because these cows are taken care of with such love, they give more milk than any other cows in the whole area. And it was true. They would always win awards. And those of us who have lived with cows, in Govardhan we live with cows. Those of us who have been in Govardhan, you've seen the cows. Beautiful cows. And Asit Krishna Maharaj has been a cowherd boy since he was a little boy. He was born in a cowherd family in Orissa, in a village in Orissa with about 300 cows his parents had. That means high village, 300 cows, that's a lot. Aristocratic family, could trace his lineage back to a small king in Orissa. And he knew how to take care of the cows, and they all give milk whenever he's around, and sometimes the production goes down when he's not around. He knows how to be with them, and they snuggle with him. He calls them by he goes, he just makes these noises. He makes these far out noises, and they do things, and you watch it, and it's like so wonderful. And then a calf comes, and he's right there, and the first thing the calf comes out, and within just, 2 3 minutes, 4 minutes, he's on his feet, looking around, and oh, there it is, and he goes right to the udder, And within just a few hours, he's jumping and, tail in the air, just like it says in the Krishna book, and running around. It's amazing. And they, the cow just loves the calf. As soon as the calf comes out, she's there, taking care of him and licking him and making sure there's nothing wrong, and seeing pure motherhood. Pure motherhood. And then they put the calf in front of the cow, and then the cow gives the milk, and then they take the cow. Well, okay, you trick them a little bit, and then as soon as enough milk is got, because if the cow doesn't take, if the cow doesn't give. If the cow gives all the milk to the calf gets sick and dies. The calf can only take a small amount of the milk of the mother. So the rest of it's meant for human beings. And this myth, another thing about cows, is that this myth that there have been wild cows and the cows, came by some, I don't know, evolutionary process or some whatever.
Hybridization?
Yeah, there's that. Shiva Maharaj actually did his people, his devotees, did a study because they wanted to bring Deshi cows from India to pure Deshi cows, pure white with the hump on the back and the dulap. The definition of a cow, according to the Vedas, is 4-legged and with a dulap. You have to have a dulap. If it doesn't have a dulap, it's not a cow. And anyway, so they did this research, and their research ended in the Deshi cow was the only real cow. And all the other cows in India and around the world were hybrids from other. And never there's a history of a wild cow. I mean, they say Neela guy, but that's not a cow. It's not a cow. It's an antelope or some kind of other creature. It doesn't have a dulap. Yes. Really?
A few things, actually.
Well, ask away.
Relating to the milk.
Ask away.
So, for the first question, does that mean that you guys only consume milk from the farm? Because wouldn't that be the only way to know for sure that the cow didn't suffer, since most milk that they sell at the stores comes from suffering?
Yeah, like I said before, Srila Prabhupada said in the Kali Yuga, you won't find anything pure.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's contaminated. The earth's contaminated. The water's contaminated. But it's obvious that they're injecting things into the cows.
Mm-hmm.
It's gross and it's horrible, and we are violently opposed to it. So, but we do the best we can, but we don't stop offering milk to the deity, because that is a spiritual principle.
Okay, so for the second question,
so we do the best we can. We try our best to get nonviolent milk to offer to the deity.
so if by any chance you don't, like, the milk isn't cruelty free or anything, is that, like, in a way forgiven by him because
It's
you
purified.
tried your best?
Yes, purified.
Okay.
It's purified if it's purchased, and it's purified if it's cooked, and it's purified if it's offered ultimately to Krishna. Then it becomes purified. Anything that comes in contact with Krishna becomes purified. No matter how it seems to be externally, impure.
So let's say, for example, because I want to transition to vegan, and it's not because I want a power or to argue with people over it.
Yeah.
It's more of a personal thing because I don't want to be in contact with anything that causes harm to any other living thing in any way. So like reduce it as much as I can, even if that includes the milk thing.
Right.
So would you say that that's not following Krishna consciousness if I'm not drinking
I would
milk?
say that you should open your mind
Mm-hmm.
to the possibility that the soul in the body of the cow.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're trying to protect the cow, the body of the cow, we should also consider the soul of the cow. What
It-
will happen to the soul of the cow?
But
In other words, you may protect the cow from being abused, but what about the soul of the cow?
but that's
If you can offer milk from the body of a cow, and that soul of the cow gets so much spiritual benefit that it will take a better birth in next life, then wouldn't you rather help the cow?
it's not that I don't want to help the cow's like soul. I agree with that. I agree that it's okay to consume milk, but if you know that it's not being like the cow's not being harmed in any way, because even if you do get milk and you purify it, there's dairy farms that are really violent with their cows, and after the cow reaches a certain basically a certain, it doesn't give as much milk as it should, then it goes to the slaughterhouse and then it's killed and it's processed for meat. So it's just part of it in some way.
Absolutely. We 100% agree with that. 100%.
So
But our business in Krishna consciousness is to try to elevate everyone spiritually, including the cows and the plants and the, everyone. So if we, just like when you take prasadam, like when we take this fruit, I don't know if any of you have experienced it, but it doesn't taste like normal fruit. When you take prasadam, the prasadam is offered in a certain way with mantras and to the deities, and it's the same ingredients, it's the same rice and dal and vegetables and whatever. But when you taste it, not only does it taste different, but it feels different when you eat it. There's a different effect. So that's the proof that a material thing can connect it with Krishna, with love, will change in quality from material to spiritual. So it's true. We hate the idea that cows will be abused. We hate it. You can be with us. It's okay. We're okay about that. We agree with you on that point. But if we can't find any, pure cow, we will still try to get it as good as possible, offer that milk to the deity, because it's part of deity worship to offer milk to the deity.
yeah, because I understand.
And it's purified. The
I
milk is
understand
purified.
The milk thing.
The milk is purified, and the cow that gives the milk is purified.
Yeah. I understand I'm not against like the drinking milk thing in general. I'm just against like the abuse that goes behind it, because like I was talking to him the other day and I was like, if one day I have my own farm, and I have my own cows, and I know that I'm giving my love to those cows, they're not being mistreated, then I know the milk is not, it's not causing the cow any suffering, so I would be okay with doing that, because I'm the one there. I know that I'm giving it love. So
that's why we have our own cows in Govardhan, because in India it's even worse. You don't know what they're putting in the milk. We agree. If I agree, I hope that you'll agree that I agree, and don't be and don't keep getting on my case, because you see my point. Yeah. I'm agreeing.
Just questioning a bit.
Yeah, but we can't be. What's the word? We can't be defiant.
It is not defiance.
I'm just asking. I'm saying in general. I'm saying in general. Oh, okay. In general, in principle. Mm-hmm. We sometimes when we're preaching, and people will agree with the person, but they'll just still disagree.
I agree to some point. It's not defiance. I'm just trying to understand it better.
Thank you.
So I had a question regarding that with defiance. And I was wondering, if I think something is unjust because it causes unnecessary suffering to innocent beings, is it okay to disobey those laws?
No.
It's not?
No.
Even though if we know that it's actually harming other beings, just like you and me, is it okay for us? So should we just follow blindly?
It's not okay to harm other beings.
Okay. So should we just follow blindly because the scriptures say so?
It's not blind. Just because the scriptures say so, that doesn't mean it's blind. Mm-hmm. The scriptures are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mm-hmm. They're transcendental sound. They're eternal. they're co-eternal with God. Vedaischa sarvar aham eva vedya. Vedantakrit eva vid eva jaham. So it's not that we just accept it blindly just because it's said. It says there's history, there's philosophy, there's science. There, if you read all the scriptures and try to understand them and follow them, then you get realization. And from that realization, you can understand that these are actual truths.
Yeah, so it isn't necessarily that, though. Maybe it was misinterpreted, what I said.
Say that again?
Maybe you misinterpreted what I said. But what I really meant was, we can both agree that it's very unjust what's happening to those cows, right? So, I know, and of course, like, sometimes it can be okay. Like you said, you guys treat the cows nicely, and that's fine. But that doesn't always happen. So, we're still contributing to it, to the pain and suffering of many beings, just because, like the scriptures say so. So in what way can we justify eating, other than, well, I guess the way to justify it is what you guys say, offering it, but it's still causing a lot of pain and suffering, just because we want to fulfill our taste pleasures. Like, we know now, like in the scriptures, I know in the book we were reading, it says that cow milk is good, but it's actually been proven to be bad in many ways too. It has casomorphines, which cause us to become addicted to it. That's why it's very hard for us to even challenge those views. And then there's also, it causes a lot of hormone imbalances within guys. A lot of guys will start to develop gynecomastia, which is breast tissues. And like I said, it causes a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering to, innocent beings. I'm sure you know what happens to cattle who are born as men. As soon as they're born, they're sent to a slaughterhouse, or they're shot in the head. Also, I know a lot of the cattle, within 24 hours, as soon as they're born, if it's a female, will get taken away from its mother. So even if we do offer our milk to the deity, we're still contributing to unnecessary pain and suffering. Yeah, so like the main thing with veganism isn't that like we want to be better or more powerful. We just want to completely eliminate all pain and suffering that's unnecessary.
Is there a situation in the material world that all pain and suffering is eliminated?
No, but we want to reduce what we... Yeah, because we can control somewhat what we cause, Like, if somebody eats meat, they're contributing to a lot more pain and suffering than someone who doesn't, right? We can agree on that. So, also somebody who doesn't drink milk is also contributing to less. So the thing is, I can still walk outside and step on a bug. I can't be perfect. And veganism isn't about being perfect. It's about just doing what you can. Like you said, doing the best that you can.
Yes, we agree. But where we draw the line is to say that milk is scientifically bad for you. And we cannot accept the Vedas that says that milk is actually beneficial.
Well, could you tell me how it's... Okay, but like your physical body. So it's been proven to be bad for your physical body. Could you tell me how it's good?
Yes,
yeah,
please.
Sure. The problem with modern science is they don't look at the original issue. It's like what they say, if you have a cataract in your eye, you pluck out the eye. That's what they're saying. The casomorphine, what you're talking about, it's not present in the milk. It is the antibiotics which are given to the cows to eat. So this is what I recommend to my patients. I say, if you want to drink milk, you drink grass-fed cow's milk. The cows, they go into pasture, they eat the grass, and that milk is good. On the other hand, when it comes to veganism is a subtle form of cruelty again to the cows. I'll tell you the reason for that. If there are 100 cows in a community, 100 people in the community, and there are 100 cows, and 50 people say that, okay, I am going to become vegan, so which means to say, to that extent, the requirement of milk is lessened. So the cow which would be living for 10 days or 15 days would be sent to slaughterhouse the second day itself. So what people don't talk about these things. I agree, as Maharaj said, that there is cruelty, But at the same time, in our practice, we are not looking only to the body. We are going beyond that. And whatever, just you, if you have a time, you watch a movie called Branding. In that, it is clearly mentioned that how people can go to any extent to promote what is not good. So when it comes to milk, they are giving you all the list of things which they feel is bad because they want to promote something else. So we are not getting into it. What we are trying to say is that if the modern world runs on supply and demand, if you ask for grass-fed cow's milk, they will provide it. They are doing that now. If you ask for cruelty-free milk, they have to do that. But the thing is that people are not aware of all these things. You Google it. It's a statistics, Maharaj. 7% of Americans, they believe chocolate milks come from brown cows. This is just to show you what kind of... I asked one of my patients, a small child, I said, where do you get milk from? He says, oh, mommy gets from Kroger's. So this is the condition. Milk is not bad, but the way it's been presented, that's bad. When people are consuming the milk with all kind of antibiotics in it, then as a result to that, the body is producing the defense, and then you see the changes in the body. So milk is not bad, cow is not bad, the way they are treating is bad.
That's what we're trying to get to.
But at the same time, we need not stop. If we increase the demand that we need a better milk, you will get it. We have done this experiment in India, and we had 25 villages which the cows were not sent to slaughterhouse. The devotees were taking care of them. So that's the whole idea. It cannot be changed in a day or two. It will take time.
You know what the term advertising was in the beginning? It was called engineering consent. The first advertising was called engineering consent. So it comes to his point. Yes.
Just an addition.
Taste the atmosphere. Taste the atmosphere. When you get into this polemic and you start arguing against the scripture, no matter how well-intentioned you are, and no matter how logical your arguments are, it creates violence. It creates no. It creates violence. It creates tension. It creates opposition. And then the argument is blind following. So I beg you, before you come up with that blind following argument, please read the whole Bhagavad Gita cover to cover, the whole Bhagavatam cover to cover, the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita cover to cover, and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu cover to cover, and then let's talk.
So the thing is, like I told you, you might have misinterpreted my first argument.
No, I'm not misinterpreting anything. I'm not misinterpreting anything. I accepted. Right from the beginning, I accepted. We don't like the violence. We don't want to hurt any living being. But the material world is dukkhalayam ashasvatam. That is a fact. No matter who you are, no matter what your philosophy is, no matter what religion you are, no matter atheist or whatever you are, whoever you are, you cannot avoid violence in this material world because everyone has to die. And that dying is painful. You cannot avoid disease, and that disease is painful. You cannot avoid birth, and that birth is painful. So the solution, no matter what your philosophy is, and no matter what your activism is, you cannot avoid those things without becoming fully God conscious when you leave your body. That's all. And Krishna consciousness is the answer for that, for those problems. Because those are the real problems of life. It's the real solution for material existence. And we're not saying that we don't want to try our best to avoid and make the world as unviolent as possible and reduce suffering as much as possible, but ultimately we want to reduce the violence altogether. And you cannot do that in this material world. You cannot reduce the suffering to zero in the material world. In the spiritual world, there is no violence. Because there's no time, there's no space, there's no matter, there's no old age, there's no disease, there's no disintegration of things, there's no death. In the spiritual world, the motivating factor is love, pure love. But in here, the motivating factor is time, the thing that pushes, and the modes of material nature. In the Satya Yuga, these things this kind of violence wasn't there in the Satya Yuga. And then as time goes, and as human beings start to act outside of the laws of nature, then gradually passion becomes more prominent, and then it mixes, then it goes to ignorance, and now we're in Kali Yuga. And the Kali Yuga, the ignorance is very prominent. But in Satya Yuga, goodness was prominent. And there were no sick cows, and there were no sick human beings, period. And there were no, you could eat a fruit from the tree, just one fruit from the tree, and you'd be good for the day. Because the potency of material energy, when everything is in goodness, increases unlimitedly. Well, not unlimitedly, but a lot. But the unlimited potency, where you can have non-violent life completely, is in the spiritual world. So the Vedas teach us where the spiritual world is, what it is, how the material world was created, scientifically, not blindly, but scientifically, and so we want to go back there. And we want the souls in all the living beings to go back there. But the human body has this discrimination. It has the capacity to understand these things. So I think that we can agree, and maybe sometimes there are things we can't agree on everything. We can agree to disagree on certain things. But if we cut out the possibility of going back to the spiritual world by following the laws of nature given in the Vedas, because that's where all the laws are coming from. The word Veda in Sanskrit language, which is the source of all knowledge and source of all language and source of all culture, if we break those laws, then there's no hope.
Can I ask something else?
Sure.
You just triggered another question in my mind.
Sure.
Okay, so you said that if we don't follow the Vedas or what's written on the scriptures, we can't go back to the spiritual world, basically, right?
Yes.
So,
no, some people can follow the scriptures or follow the Vedas and still be demons because they don't follow them with love. You can only go back to the spiritual world if you develop pure love for God while you're in this material world.
Okay, so just to make it clear, I just want to understand. I'm not trying to argue or, I want to be clear in my mind. So if I do become fully vegan one day, that would not matter. I do not have to drink milk or eat milk.
No, you don't have to drink milk.
And that wouldn't go against the writings.
No.
Okay.
There are sages that used to eat just fruit in Satya Yuga, and they would go back to Godhead. It's not that God consciousness is in the substance of milk. It's not like that. It's not that the substance. It's not that God consciousness is in the substance of milk or in the substance of anything. God consciousness is the original affection that the soul has for God. And when that original affection, which is consciousness, the original consciousness is God consciousness, is love for God. And when that consciousness comes through the gross material body, whatever it is, it becomes distorted. And it becomes, affection for this, or for that, or for this, or for that, whatever. Yeah. It becomes material attachment. So the process of the Vedas is to teach us how to awaken our love for God, our love for Krishna. And because Krishna is the original form of God, there's unlimited forms of God. God is unlimited. You can't limit him in any way. But there is an original form of God, And if you chant that name, then you get the benefit of all the other names. You get the benefit of all the other mantras. If you worship the form of Krishna, you get the benefit of worshiping everything.
There's love. If there wasn't love, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
There's love.
Yeah, that's what love is. That's what love is. And that love, if you water the root of existence, if you give your love exclusively to the root of existence, then your love will go everywhere. And of course, this is a very advanced stage. This is not a beginning stage. But in the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, when your love is given completely to Krishna, everything, that love goes everywhere, and you love every living being equally. No discrimination. That's where we want to go. But it's not a formula, it's not a, like you say, a blind following of some ritual, and then you do this and then you get that. No, this is the deep yearning of the soul. That's why the evidence is there. It's a matter of how we're evaluating our evidence. No one wants to die unless he's completely insane. No one wants to die. Even a bug. You put your hand here and the bug will run away, try to get away. He doesn't want to die. All living beings, they don't want to die because they're eternal. They all want pleasure because they're full of pleasure in the original state, in their pure state. They all want to know everything. That's what the whole internet's about. The combined desire of all the human beings to know everything. Now you got you can Google it, And that's how the material nature works, you see. The material nature works in order to fulfill the combined desires of all the human beings in the universe.
Is it bad if you don't mind dying? Not that you don't fear death.
No, we're not afraid to die. We're not going to die.
Or that you want to die, you just,
Nobody if you want to die, that means you're insane. If you want to die, that means you're insane.
No, but
because you're eternal.
But wouldn't that's what I mean by the physical body, like in the physical sense. Like
then you're insane. Then you're insane. Then you're insane.
How?
Because you can't die.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, but I'm saying, because you're eternal, that.
Then you'll become a ghost.
Okay.
Because you've rejected what God has given you. Okay. You've rejected the body that God's given you, that has the capacity, the human body has the capacity to become God conscious and to go back to the spiritual world.
But that's the goal.
So you've rejected it.
Yeah.
So therefore God says, the laws of nature says, okay, you don't want to have a material body, so you won't get a gross material body, you'll be a ghost. But you'll still be in your subtle body. Like when you dream, you have a subtle body. Right. You dream, so you stay in that body. But you don't have a gross body to fulfill those desires. You'll still have the desires, but you won't have the gross body to fulfill those desires. Now that's a suffering condition.
I don't want to die, I'm not saying that.
I'm saying theoretically.
Yeah, I'm just...
You're asking me the question, I'm giving you the answer.
Because once you know that God is everything, then you don't really I don't know how to explain it. It's not that I don't fear death or I want to die, but it's just that I know when I do, when my physical body's gone, I'm not gone, so it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
That's not the same thing as wanting to die. That's not the same thing as wanting. That's what self-realization.
Yeah.
That's spiritual realization. We're certainly not going to argue against spiritual realization.
Because I used to be afraid of dying.
But eventually, we have to surrender to God. Eventually, we have to surrender to the laws of nature. And if you don't surrender to God, then you have to surrender to death. You can think that you're independent, you can think that you can do anything until it comes to that last breath. And every single person will breathe that last breath. And then you'll be forced to surrender, because Krishna says, kalos me. Mrityu harashcharam. I am death. And you cannot escape that. No one. So whatever you think, you have to surrender to the Supreme Personality of God. And when you do that, and there's different levels of doing that, but when you do it with love, then you're no longer in the material world, even if you're still in a material body. Then you don't care whether you die or not. Then you don't care whether you're in the spiritual world or not. But that's the highest stage of spiritual perfection. We can't imitate that. We can't, kind of, I don't know, what's the word? That's the reality, the complete reality.
I think prana is one thing to say.
Prana.
Oh, no.
Oh, please, prana. Prana, Hari. Liberate us.
I just wanted to bring up a point, make a comment about, I think when it comes to issues of faith, essentially, we need to do a real very honest examination of our process of acquisition of knowledge. And this is going right back to the introduction of Ishopanishad, how essentially the two main ways of acquiring knowledge, one is empirical and one is deductive, or the inductive versus the deductive process. And the inductive process has innate flaws in it. There are innate flaws in the inductive process of acquiring knowledge, and therefore it is actually an impossibility to acquire actual knowledge, actual facts, actual truths of reality from the inductive process, from the empirical process. And that process is flawed because of the four defects of the conditioned soul. Every conditioned soul has the propensity to make mistakes, become illusioned, tendency to cheat others, and imperfect senses.
Yes, mistake one thing for another.
And so these innate flaws essentially disqualify one from it discredits the absolute authority of the empirical process. The empirical process means that, I conduct some study and I can acquire knowledge or truth from my own
the strength of my own intelligence.
The strength of my own intelligence and senses, yes. And so, the examples given, that if one is trying to prove there are no black swans. This is a famous example given, and even Western philosophers give this one, that one has to go and travel and try to find a black swan, and one might never find a black swan in all of their entire life. So then they might say, well, there's no black swans, probably. But that doesn't mean there is none, because the empirical always leaves that open end, because hey, maybe there's a swan I didn't find. There could be that. So that there's the innate flaw with the empirical approach, that I am coming to truth based on my own senses, based on my own intelligence, based on my imperfect equipment.
Yes.
The materially, we're under the modes. It's not absolute. Whereas the deductive method is by submitting and taking an authority. So the deductive method, for instance, we hear an axiom that man is mortal. And therefore we understand that, oh, I am a man. Therefore one can conclude very authoritatively that I am mortal. So in that Isha Upanishad introduction, Prabhupada asserts that the Vedic knowledge is uncontaminated by these four defects because they're not coming from a conditioned platform.
Yes.
They're coming from a transcendence. And so that knowledge can be taken axiomatically. So those statements, we can reach deductive, conclusive truths. We can take there's actual knowledge to be gained from the deductive process. But the inductive process is very imperfect. We can even have the experience that, just to say, well, we won't go into the milk thing, but that's another example. But at least the meat eating one, even that science has changed in the last 25 years I've been on this, in this body, and this planet.
Yeah.
You hear one thing, you need it, you absolutely need it. Then 2 years later you hear, it's causing
very bad for you.
Very, very bad for you. And then the next year, my sister's a nurse, and she became vegan actually because the science was out that drinking the milk's bad and eating the meat's bad. And then 1 year later, she saw new scientific studies that no, you need these vitamins. So now she's eating meat again and drinking milk.
When I became a vegetarian, my mother, who was, by the way, a nutrition expert, she was a teacher, she said, now you're going to die. I said, Mom, I'm not going to die. More than half the people of the earth don't eat meat. None. That's it. I learned it in the University of California at Santa Barbara.
So that's just a testament to the imperfection of that process of acquiring knowledge. So I think when these subject matters come up, what will really benefit us is to take shelter of axiomatic truth, the deductive process.
That's right.
And if there's some miscomprehension, misunderstanding, and also misunderstanding of proper application of it, then there can be humble inquiry and discussion and resolution. But the inductive process.
This is why I offered the possibility to Judas to read these books first, before we make a conclusion, because in the third canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, there's a verse. Could you get the third canto? There's a verse in the section of the Bhagavatam that explains the creation of the universe systematically. 26. 26. Text 30. This is a verse that describes the purpose of intelligence, what the original purpose of intelligence was at the beginning of the creation. Asangshayota viparyaso nishtaya smritir evacha swapa it yuchate buddher lakshanam prititak pritak. Translation: doubt. Doubt? What? Doubt? Intelligence? Doubt? What? Misapprehension. Correct apprehension. Memory and sleep, as determined by their different functions, are said to be the distinct characteristics of intelligence. I'm trying to explain to you how intelligent you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Purport. Doubt is one of the important functions of intelligence. Blind acceptance of something does not give evidence of intelligence. Therefore, the word samshaya is very important. In order to cultivate intelligence, one should be doubtful in the beginning. I from my research, I've never seen a statement like this in any scripture on the earth, except for this one, that encourages to be doubtful in the beginning. In order to cultivate intelligence, one should be doubtful in the beginning, because it is this doubtfulness of the intelligence that takes us in our search to truth. And when we search and we find knowledge that doesn't satisfy our intelligence completely, then we move on. And we keep moving on, and we keep moving on, and we keep moving on. And therefore there's many religions, and there's many philosophies, and there's many ideas. But doubting is not very favorable when information is received from the proper source. Forgive me for saying this, but your namesake was like this, doubtful Thomas. You know, Thomas was doubtful no matter what, Jesus said. He doubted. Therefore he had to pay the price. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that doubting the words of the authority is the cause of destruction. So doubting is good, but when you come to an absolute source of authority, as Panahari is saying, that is the deductive method of receiving knowledge. And everyone receives knowledge by this process. Everyone. When you're a baby and you come out of your mother's womb, you don't know nothing. Or even if you did, it's way deep inside the subtle body, and you have to be told, this is a plant, this is a book, this is a this is a that, and you have to accept it. Axiomatic truth, that's the point. 1 + 1 = 2. When I was preaching in America back in the 1970s, I was traveling and preaching, and I had a preaching program, and there was a new thing that came out. It was called New Math. You've heard about that? Yeah. This was the 1974, 3, New Math. And I was given a lecture, and I said, so, axiomatic truth, 1 + 1 = 2, and somebody stuck his hand and said, it is not, it's 3, or it could be 5, or it could be this or that. And I said, what do you mean? He said, this is the new math. Yeah, and it got off the ground, and it started to spread. And then eventually, it was given up, just like you said. As described in the Patanjali Yoga system, pramana viparyaya vikalpa nidra smritya. By intelligence only, one can understand things as they are. By intelligence only can one understand whether or not he is the body. The study to determine whether one's identity is spiritual or material begins in doubt. When one is able to analyze his actual position, the false identification with the body is detected. This is called viparyasa. When false identification is detected, then real identification can be understood. Real understanding is described here as nishchaya, or proved experimental knowledge. This experimental knowledge can be achieved when one has understood the false knowledge. By experimental or proved knowledge, one can understand that he is not the body, but spirit soul. So all levels of knowledge fit within this knowledge. There's no knowledge that isn't contained within the Vedas. And with that, do we still have battery left?
Yeah, there's a question on here.
There's a question. It's 8:30. I've got to get up really early in the morning and do my
I
thing.
think actually just a comment.
A comment.
Yes. Katie Roma.
Katie Ramai. Hare Krishna, Katie.
She said, this is very interesting. It shows how dangerous is the false ego. The demons would rather die by drinking the poisons, just so they can be considered being chivalrous rather than submitting themselves to Krishna.
Yes. All right, with that, Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Thanks all of you for your comments. Thank you for your deep intellectual and spiritual truths. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Same time, same station. Hare Krishna.